Hello everyone. I would like to welcome you to my senior mastery. I'm Brayden Powers, and I would like to show you the power of MIDI and musical data. To start off, I would like to introduce my panel members. Starting here, we have my dad, Mr. Powers. He is the assistant principal at Sockasty Middle. We have Ms. Powers right here. She is my mother. She teaches history at North Myrtle Beach Middle School. We have Mr. Vigo here. He is my middle school band teacher and has helped me out throughout my musical career ever since I started. And this is Coach McMahon over here. He taught social studies 8th grade and overall has just been a part of my life for the better half of it. So talking about my presentation, we got to ask some obvious question. This is a class about data science. Why in the world am I making a presentation about music? That doesn't really seem like something that would connect, right? Well, my reasoning behind it is, well, first of all, I am a musician myself. I've played saxophone for the longest time. I've also delved into some tuba or piano. I've played in all these bands before, and just as music as a part of my life, I want to be able to show you guys, the culmination of what I love to do outside the school as well as inside the school, and what that looks like. And the main objective that I want to share with you guys today, the whole point of my mastery, is to demonstrate how easy it is to compose songs or write songs with the use of the MIDI protocol, and just how easy that can really be without having to be a genius Beethoven sitting in a room with a piano for hours just writing down music or tapping away on a keyboard. But before we can get into the nitty-gritty of all of it, we have to start back at the beginning. How exactly did I get here as a person in this informatics class? What led up to the a culmination of what I'm presenting to you today. So I want to talk over some works that I've prepared for you, just a few that I would like to show you to kind of show what I've been doing in this class. So let's go over to courses 1 and 2 for informatics. For Informatics 1, we have the Excel forecasting project. This was one of the first few ones we did in Informatics 1. The point of it was that we took COVID-19 data, which was still relevant at the time around my sophomore year when we're just still getting in the hybrid. We took the actual COVID data and we had to go on to Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets, whatnot, and we had to make a graph that would be able to project what the amount of cases will look like in the coming future. So you can see I have my data right here, dates and cases. And you can see the graph right here of the actual data, and then you can see the projection line of where it was predicting that the number of cases were actually going. And it was kind of funny is that when I was talking this with Ms. Penn, the predictions that we made for this are actually way lower than what it turned out to be. You see like, oh, it's increasing a lot, but it was actually way worse. And This project in particular, I think showed one of my biggest growth moments during the Informatics 1 course, simply because I had to delve deep into a lot of responsibility for myself, because this was one of the few projects in that class that we did by ourselves, since most of the projects that we do in this class are group-based. This one was kind of an outlier because we had to do it all from ourselves and figure out everything by ourselves. And that was kind of a bummer for me because I wanted to leech off of other people's work, because I didn't really know a lot of the functionality of Excel or Sheets. I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, so I really had to step up my game and figure out how exactly I was going to do it. And it turned out I actually successfully did it. So I think that's a really good growth opportunity for me. And over here, jumping to Informatics 2 class, we had the data visualization project that we did. We used an application called ArcGIS to visualize road traffic data. As you can see here, I've taken a section of South Carolina. You can see in green lines, kind of the roads in South Carolina, and it looks a little crazy because the dots are everywhere. But these are supposed to indicate how different types of traffic that might appear in those areas, or how heavily condensed those areas of traffic might be. And for this project, I really think it demonstrated my adaptability. This was one of the first times in the informatics course that we had to move on from, Microsoft. Like this was something else. It wasn't just, looking at, blank, columns and rows of just white, little banks of just numbers. We actually had to, have a map, and demonstrate data visually. And it also really, opened up my mind to, the world of informatics and just how broad it can really be. So I really had to adapt to it because it's something new. I'm used to putting numbers in here. Now I have to go find, road traffic data on a map. So I really think it showed, how flexible I needed to be for, just learning about the informatics world. And another one that I would like to talk about as well for Informatics 2 was the Etherson project. Miss Etherson, she teaches the digital communications major here. This was probably by far one of the biggest projects as a class that we had to do, because it was the only one that we had to work on together as a full class. Like the team was the whole class. It was that big of a project. And the issue is that Miss Etherson had a lot of CTE inventory, or stuff that was being funneled to her by the district, and she was having a lot of trouble being able to just keep up with all of it in general, because kids will go and break all this expensive camera equipment that she's using, and she'll struggle to keep track of all of that. So what we were doing is basically creating this database that would help just improve the quality of life, and so she wouldn't have to worry about all these little individual things when it comes to such a big inventory. And my specific work, what I did for this project, is I worked on the disposition report. When it comes to dispositioning items, that means she needs to move it out of her classroom, whether it be that she's just moving it on for someone else to use, or it is broken and she just needs to get out of the classroom because it no longer works. What I did is I took the district's work, the paper right here. This is what they use for the disposition filing, and I basically had to handpick and recreate this from scratch in Microsoft Access, so the district doesn't fuss about someone using something that isn't this. And I basically had to make it to where all she would have to do is click a little check box saying, hey, I'm going to disposition this, and it would individually fill out all the data on that item, so she wouldn't have to worry about it, and only fill in the rest of the stuff that technology can't really do for her in each case.
Genius.
This project specifically, it was probably one of the biggest projects I've worked on in this class, and it really forced me to be patient. As a person, I really don't like working on something for a really long time, just one thing over and over. It can get kind of boring and I don't like it. So having to work on something like this for a very long time, especially trying to individually print out the difference between that and that just so the lines are like perfectly matched with each other, I really had to demonstrate my patience with just being able to work on big projects with other people, as well as learn about communication and why that is so important for work like this. Not only since we were a whole class working on this and we needed to coordinate with what we were working on and how to connect all of this together, we also had to communicate with our client, which is not really something we were doing beforehand, because all of it was just, oh, here's a paper that says what you need to do or what this client is asking. But this was a real client. We had to follow what her needs were, figure out how we could answer those needs for her. So I really had to learn patience and communication with a project as big as this. And also I would like to talk about one project from Informatics 3, that being the movie theater tickets project. For this project, we basically had to create a website that would host a database that had movie theater ticket availability. The whole point is kind of like some app for a movie where you could check in real time the ticket availability for any movie in any given movie theater for that movie theater. And this was probably one of the most difficult projects I've ever done just in school, because this right here is kind of what the final product looks like. And you might be thinking, well, that's not much. You could probably just type that in like an excess thing. But no, that's not actually the case, because The database worked in a coding language called SQL, and then just to have a website host that which works in HTML, which is its own language code. We had to, not only learn SQL and HTML, but also connect those together using code called PHP. So that's 3 different types of code that I've never worked before, having to do all of them at once. And someone who doesn't really like coding that much, that was kind of a bummer. So, and this is just like a random just snippet of like PHP code. I have no idea what's going on here. I could not explain this to you. Like, that is how difficult this is. So obviously, communication, with my team, and just how exactly do we even do this project was, important first of all, but I also had to really, up my critical thinking skills. The rest of the projects, they had been within the realm of possibility for me, just like kind of getting an idea of what I was doing. And this really had to make me think outside the box and just actually push, how far I was able to, work with this stuff, since it was entirely something that I just did not want to do. Now with the journey of the way, we finally come back to my research, what I actually delved into with this project. This section will mainly compose of 3 things I want to talk about. First of all, being the MIDI protocol itself, the basics of that and kind of the idea of how that works. I want to talk about the basics of composition and music, because you need to learn about a few basic things before you can actually write any song well. And also just overall some other miscellaneous recording stuff that I want to talk about as well. So first, we have the MIDI protocol right here. MIDI stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. This protocol is kind of like its own language, and it is used basically in the entire music tech industry. Like, this is standardized. It is important for that industry that if you're going to go into it, you would know how exactly this works. And the way it works is that it kind of acts like a translator. And here's what I mean by that. See, music over here acts as its own language. You've probably heard people say that before. Music is its own language. Anyone can communicate through music no matter where they are in the world. But the problem is a computer can't understand it doesn't know what that means, right? So MIDI acts as the gap in between those two. And I would like to actually demonstrate how that works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a instrument here, it's going to be a piano, and through this connector right here, I'm going to plug the piano into the computer right here. All right, cool.
Let's turn the volume off on here. You keep going. It's just gonna. We won't want to hear it twice.
Well, no, that's the point. That's how I know it's coming.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's coming through that anyway. But here's what I mean. So normally a computer can't just listen to a piano play some notes and be like, oh, I know what it did. MIDI basically does this. I play some stuff like here. As you can see, it's reading it. MIDI will read. It will capture what I did here, and it will translate it to the computer. Okay, they just played these notes in this order for this long, and the computer will internalize that in its own language and dump it out here. So if I were to do that, oh, it didn't get all of it. Never mind. It has to. Okay. So if I just play stuff right there, you can see you have the notes right here. Like it places them out for here. And what's good about MIDI opposed to regular recording or anything like that is that the notes right here you can manipulate. So let's see this note right here. I can make it last longer. I can change which note it's actually playing. I can change how early or how late it's actually going to be in this piece right here. And this also really delves into, the connection between this music thing that I'm doing and this informatics thing that I'm doing. Because you might see this and be like, that's not informatics. Like, where's the numbers at? Where's the data at? Well, this actually is data. For music stuff like this, you are creating data just by playing on the piano or something like that. And with that data, you are manipulating it and applying it so you can do something for the entertainment, to make a song. And that's, the important part I want to stress right here is that with, data stuff like this, you don't have to learn about the complex things of like music theory or anything like that, take a whole college course just to learn how to make a song. You can, you don't even need a keyboard for doing stuff like this. All I can do, look, there's a note right there. I just made a note, So the whole point is that, with data, with MIDI, it's not as, grueling, just to express yourself through song as you might originally think. So, right there. Thanks. And some real world applications of the MIDI protocol. You're probably wondering, okay, that's cool, but where does it apply in the real world? There's parts of it in education. They will teach this in technical music production, like in Indiana University. They have a really easy to understand, easy to read article of how MIDI works and the basic functionality of it. And you can apply to stuff like what Michael Corey did here. Unfortunately, I couldn't find what he had talked about in his article, but what he did is he used MIDI to convert earthquake data from Oklahoma into sound. Now, you might be thinking, what is exactly, the application of that? Like, that sounds cool and all, but like, what are some ways you could, turn data into sound and, make it applicable? Well, one example I can give you is one of our very own students, Mia Yancey, who gave her presentation earlier today. For theater class, for a show that they did, she took NASA data from the ocean, and which NASA did, they took data from the ocean and they made it to sound, and she used that to be the music for the show that they did, was like kind of a sea-based thing. So you're literally hearing the sound of the ocean, which I think that's pretty cool, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now, I'd like to move on to the basics of composition. We talked about MIDI. Now you need to understand how exactly you compose a song, just the basic necessities. So we have the three key elements of any type of song whatsoever. You have the melody, the harmony, and the rhythm. The melody, of course, is the main line or the main idea that the audience is listening to. It is the vocals in a song. Whenever you're listening to, like Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up, that you're hearing the lyrics play out. That is, the point of the song. The harmony acts as kind of a background, a supporting role to the melody. It is there to enrich the melody and kind of give the song more depth and complexity as well. So it is also important that if you want to make a better sounding song, a little harmony doesn't, it goes a long way. And of course, last but not least, the rhythm of the song. This is mainly done by like a percussion instrument or any low instrument, that might be, playing the beat in the background as well. This is basically, a beat that is formed by, patterns of sound that is used to create the groove of the song. It's what drives the song. It's at the core of the song, Whenever you hear, the guy playing on the drum set in the back, you're keeping in the groove, you're bobbing your head because of that drum set, and then you're like singing to the song. It's all important. You can't have, one without the other two. And of course, there's some other important factors that are important, when making any song. First is the arrangement of the song. Of course, what instruments are you going to use? You have any vocalists playing, and also what purpose do they serve? You can't just say, oh, I want to have this. Okay, what is the point of putting any of that in the song? So you need to understand what instruments you're going to put into your song, as well as what purpose are they actually serving in your song as well. And next is the key of the song. The key is basically going to tell you what the majority of the notes in the song are going to be, and also it kind of affects how the tone of the song is going to be. And an example of that is you might hear something like, something like that, or you might, those give off pretty different vibes, right? So you're gonna have to ask yourself, okay, what key is my song gonna be in? And next, of course, is the tempo. It's basically gonna ask you how fast is your song going to be? Is it going to be, just basic, steady like that, or are you on a race car going at 500 miles an hour? Just for that purpose. So how fast is that going to be? Why are you making it that fast? And will that ever change throughout the song? So something to keep in mind. And of course, last but not least, the structure of the song. People create songs, they write songs, for a reason. There's a reason they do it, and you have to ask yourself, what is the point of the song? Why am I doing it? Am I doing it to tell a story, to get across an idea? Am I wanting to express myself, or just have fun with the song? So these are all also important factors that you need to keep in mind as well. And of course, last but not least, with these sections, I want to talk about recording equipment. That, of course, if you're doing a music studio with technology, you obviously need technology, right? So the first part is obviously a keyboard right here. This is where, at least for me personally, this is where all my music came from. I did it all on here. You'll hear every instrument that isn't a piano in my song that I will show you. But with the power of MIDI, I can just play this and it sounds like a violin or a saxophone or something, which is pretty good. And the next off is the computer. Obviously, you need somewhere to host your MIDI software. The one I use for mine is BandLab. It's a simple free one that is able to do a lot of things, without having to be real complex about it. It's simple and easy to use. And of course, you have the cables as well that connects the whole thing together. This one is a MIDI to USB, so there's actually cables that specifically for MIDI, and the cable's sending through and saying, hey, this keyboard has MIDI on it. I'll be plugging in your computer to connect and use MIDI, because you can't just normally plug them up. You have to use MIDI specific cables. And a few other things that I have with me is a signal processing unit. The whole point of this is to transmit and modify any radio waves that come through it. So let's say I have a microphone plugged into here, and it records any sound that I want. All I have to do is plug it up appropriately, put in any sound I want into the microphone, and it'll come back through like a headset or into a computer that allows the radio, the wavelengths to continue, constantly throughout the electronic devices, without any issue. And of course, last but not least, a microphone. If you're not doing, of course, any direct connection through technology, you might, need a microphone to, record and capture any audio that you might need if like someone's singing a song or playing a different instrument that isn't this keyboard. And here's like a quick little picture of what my studio looks like. It's just like right down the hall right there. Of course, I've removed some things to demonstrate for you, but you can see, my piano right here. This is where I worked. My computer would be up here with the processing unit, some headsets to listen to. I have all sorts of like, microphone stands and cables going all over the place with some, extra little percussion stuff that I use to help, internally and externally, like, figure out how the percussion section of my song would be. And speaking of the song itself, it's time to move on to the final product of the song, the song itself. And this song I entitled "The Battle Between Friends." Here's some things to know about that before I actually show you the final product. So the arrangement, what I set up is violins, cellos, a harp, and some percussion as well. The key of it is in G flat, and for people who aren't musically inclined, I'm basically using black keys most of the time, so like that. Those are the kind of the notes that are in that. The tempo is at 160, so it's driving, but it's not intensely fast, right? And of course, the structure of the song is supposed to tell the story, and let me explain what exactly that story is. So you can obviously kind of tell from the name of the title, the whole point of the story is that there is two friends. They've been friends, for a long time, but all of a sudden, whatever reason, conflict, disagreement they had, they are now in this fictional arena battle that the only way to solve their problem is to duke it out, right? And I love the idea of storytelling in music, so that's what I've done here. It's a unique way to tell a story apart from just reading a book or watching a TV show. It really has to change your mind about the way we think about storytelling. The song itself is supposed to have a dramatic-ish tone. This is a battle. Obviously, it is a arena-like battle. There's supposed to be tension in it, right? Because you can't just have a song like that if it's about a battle. So you have to be more intense with it, right? But it's also the reason I chose my instruments is because I want to give off the sound that this is something that they don't really want, because they're friends. Friends don't want to battle to the end with each other, right? It's not something they want to do. So it's kind of it's a fight that's happening, but it's not really something that they want, but more like it's forced to happen. And of course, some of you may or may not hear throughout the song, I've definitely taken inspiration from the entertainment industry with some video game influence and some other media show influence, and I have directly taken some of those songs and made it part of my song. So if you know what it is and you have a keen ear, you might be able to point out, hey, that's from this video game or something. And of course, the format, how the song will kind of structure itself, I will refer back to this slide while the song plays so you kind of know where we're at. It follows simple ABA format. It doesn't last that long. Part A, that's where the violins are. They act as the two different voices for the friends. One's a higher pitch, one's a lower octave playing, so you can tell the difference. This is kind of the part where the percussion's playing in the background, kind of giving off like the raw percussion battle kind of arena sound, while the violins are taking their blows at each other. They'll have their little introductions, and then they'll kind of clash between melody and harmony as kind of representative of their battle. And it will then cut into part B. Part B is where the harp and the cellos come in. It kind of acts like a flashback in the middle of the song. It's supposed to go back to a time where the friends weren't duking it out or anything like that. They were just enjoying their time, living freely as friends, how they should be. It's supposed to starkly contrast the part A song where it's like her, and then in this you're like, yay, we're friends. So the harp acts as the melody in that part, while the cellos kind of give a low sounding flow to that part. And then it'll jump back into part A for the final bits of the confrontation in the song. And without further ado, I would like to present my song. Alright, that needs to turn it up. Red one? Okay. Oh, that's my gecko.
Oh, then next to the red one.
Didn't we
Left or
put it
right?
down from over here too?
That's really
And you can get it more from your computer as well. So your volume, not on.
She had turned it down over here, didn't she?
No,
Earlier.
it's not from there. It's that's just that device. So your device,
okay. Like tool place.
like FM. Yes, there you go.
Oopsie. Spoilers.
There we go.
Now, since it's the end of my informatics journey, I would like to share my evaluation of not only the senior mastery but the course overall as well. So to talk about a few things with the senior mastery itself, a lot of the change that I made was greatly reducing the scale of this project. I joked with my friends about, oh, I'm gonna make an album, it's gonna be cool. But in my mind, I was like, yeah, I'll probably get 3 songs. And then I was like, yeah, I'll probably get 2 songs out. That's the one song that you heard today. So it definitely takes, I've really underestimated, just how long the creative process, makes, how long it actually, I have to think about, just diddling away at a keyboard thinking, oh, this sounds cool. I'll make this part of the, this song here. So, I wanted to do, all these different songs. I want to have, this song and then maybe like a cool jazz song, but it didn't turn out that way, unfortunately. Some advice, I would just give as a general, state of advice for just doing any kind of work, not only just, informatics work. I would like to say, don't be afraid to ask for help. Y'all definitely told me this a lot. My parents are no strangers to saying this, but especially in doing stuff like group work and just other work like this, where you're kind of new and just it's new territory that you're stepping into. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Ask for help for someone who knows things. Like I never would have figured out about how this works or how to make my studio and plug all this up without getting Miss Penn to help me with that. Thank you for that as well, of course. But yeah, so just don't be, a lot of this stuff can be overwhelming, so don't be afraid to ask for help. As far as me growing as a person from this experience, not only with, the course, but this project as well, I think I've changed a lot, both personally and professionally. Personally, I was always that shy kid, that would just go do his thing in the corner. I didn't really want to, talk to anyone or force conversation, onto people. But of course, when 99% of what you're doing in a class is constantly, group projects, and you have to communicate with each other or else you're going to get a bad grade, that might kind of force you to, do that kind of stuff. So I've, through this, I've been, more active in communicating with people and also having more confidence, to do, give a presentation like this, because at the start, I was always, really shy and really nervous about, doing that kind of stuff. But going into this, I don't really feel that nervousness anymore. I feel, this is fine, this is okay. So I really think that is a great improvement for me. And of course, professionally as well. I know more how to do, technical work, different types of, professional writing, how to give a presentation professionally, what a professional presentation and work should look like. So I definitely, grown in that aspect as well. And, experience with the informatics course specifically, I definitely think I really had a wonderful time in this major. It definitely taught me a lot. It's more than just, sitting on a project working on numbers. It's really about opening yourself to the professional world of just informatics and other things in general. So I really think this course overall has been a positive experience for me, and I've really had a lot of fun doing this kind of stuff. And final remarks on my senior mastery as well. Of course, since I put one of my all-time hobbies, one of my passions into this, of course I had a lot of fun doing it. I really liked spending the last couple of weeks just sitting in my little made-up studio, just hacking away at the keyboard, doing something I love instead of just doing boring work in the classroom. So I'm really glad I got to be able to incorporate something I love to do with actual schoolwork. And with that out of the way, future plans, this is kind of what I'm doing now since this whole thing is over. College-wise, I will be attending the Honors College at Francis Marion. I got accepted into that recently. I'm very happy about that. I plan to stay there for my 4 years, just college in general. And as far as other plans, doing while I'm getting education, I would love to, travel overseas. I think it's a big world out there, and I want to see what it has to offer. So, as I'm gonna use study abroad as much as I physically can. As far as career plans go, overall, I'm really undecided. I currently have as for Francis Marion's sake, I kind of have the intention of going into law school. Plan to do international law. That kind of coincides with my travel ideas. I like law and just kind of the idea of art, battling it out in court, to find the truth. That little funny thing. But I also have had some other ideas, like maybe work as a translator. I really enjoyed my Spanish courses here. I went up to Spanish 3. I'm in the Spanish Honor Society. If that didn't tell you I'd like it, then I don't know what else to tell you. But being able to do something like that for a job, maybe work for a private company and just make like $100K a year just speaking a different language, that sounds pretty cool. I like that. And also give you more opportunities to travel around. And of course, I have a little funny dream job, voice actor. My friends tell me this all the time when I'm joking around in a silly voice. They're like, "Hey, you should be a voice actor." And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, but I also need food on my table when I go out. So if I somehow kick it off, then great. But otherwise, it's probably not gonna happen." That is the conclusion of my senior mastery. I would like to thank each of you, the panel members and the audience members that have joined to watch me today, and that is how I would like to conclude my senior mastery. Questions from the panel members?
So we will. We have an opportunity to. No, we're going to record this too. Thank you though. For questions and comments, and we'll just kind of start down there at the other end if you want to jump in.
When did you have time to learn all this stuff? Because this seems overwhelming to me. The amount of information that and databases and information from sources and putting it in computers, and it just seems like you have had a very short period of time here, and so much has gone on.
Well, I think that is the beauty of this class. It really, for Ms. Penn's idea of how these projects go is that she leaves us until we're about to die. The whole point of these projects is you're not being handheld by the teacher. You actually have to go and find the research yourself and figure out for yourself and as a group, and also those cases to figure out actually what you're doing. And if you're of course you're last beam on, she'll give us a hand, but it really forces yourself to learn how to be able to learn how to research properly, how to do all these things so you can put out your best work. And the Informatics 4 course, this semester has been dedicated, like the entire time for class has been dedicated to working on something like this. So I definitely have had, a decent amount of time just to learn all of this. And it's also kind of the reason why, I have class time to research all of this, right? But I don't have the class time to, be creative for so long and, make a bunch of songs, so.
Okay, very good. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
So just to be clear for everybody, when you were putting together your song, you did everything on the keyboard. So you had even though we heard violin and harp, those were all done on the keyboard.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's not aware, that entire song was your idea, was you performing. You didn't get people to play it for you. I think that's really awesome. I know that even though I went to school for music and I went to be a music teacher, I don't feel like I have the personal brain capacity to come up with such an in-depth idea, and I think it's really cool that you came up with that and you used the ABA format, which is great. I love it. As a teacher, to hear someone come up with something really, really beautiful, and have the really good imagery to imagine all that stuff. It was really cool, really nice to listen to.
Thank you.
Where did you learn about the ABA format?
It was part of my research. It was one of the articles I had looked about composition. It kind of suggested ways to format your song, and it was like, oh, here's a simple ABA thing. I was like, I'll do it as that because I don't want to spend too much time figuring out those parts of the song.
There was there was a point at which I recall a conversation where you were like, I just don't even know where to start writing a song, and I'm pretty sure I sent you to Skillshare first and made you watch some tutorials,
Yeah.
and then research, right? And because I don't know how to write a song either, I found watching it fascinating and wonderful as well, because neither one of us knew how to do this, so it is pretty dang great, and pretty cool. Until he started rehearsing, I didn't know that he had used this ABA format from the research as well. So that's kind of exciting and terrifying about teaching like this, is because they are really truly working very independently. So they're days go by and then I'm like, hey Brayden, can I see what you got? And I come back and he's got oh well, I figured out how to make all this happen, and I'm like, oh well, I had nothing to do with that, but I'm gonna take credit for it because it's awesome. But yeah, the freedom to run intellectually, artistically, academically is just an absolute blessing to be able to have the time for, first of all, and it yields great results.
That's all I got.
Mom, Dad.
Yeah, obviously with the next steps, moving off to college and things like that. Where do you think? How do you think this has impact the challenges that are going to be before you in college?
That's what they're there
What are
for.
some of the things that this project has helped you to overcome as you start your next journey, your next chapters?
Well, the project is, it is your own thing. You have the freedom, the capacity to, only think for yourself how you're going to do your own work. And I think, that definitely relates to college, because you're going off as, you're going in 18 years old, you're a legal adult. You need to be able to not have your hand held in everything that you do. So doing something like this so freely and independently, being able to make your own decisions and format how you work, I think that is very important for something like college, where they don't really care what you're doing, but you have to care what you're doing because you're paying them to do it.
That's right. Aren't you glad to hear he understands that? Yeah, let's we'll move back here. Miss Evans, Miss Wilson.
I'm so proud of you. I am. That was amazing. We took a step to make these new majors. We were really looking for emerging careers, and we were taking a risk, right? We've got an amazing teacher and amazing students, and I heard our whole entire mission statement today. I heard about your creativity, your innovation, problem solving, critical thinking, all of it. And to have that beautiful product at the end, your original song, wow, Brayden, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing all of that. And also, I really enjoyed the steps from each of your classes. So it's really good to kind of see an overview of the courses that you've made and the impact that it makes, and just how it comes together in this culmination. So thank you for sharing your talents. Way to go.
Thank you.
Bravo.
I absolutely love that you took something that's so analytic and made it creative. As an artist myself, being able to tell a story, a narrative, and convey that people can emotionally react to it. I found myself taking a side in that fight. Like, I knew who I wanted to win, and that means you did a good job when you told that story. So I really enjoyed the presentation.
I connected that too. I talked to Brayden his final rehearsal today before he started, and I was like, "What do you want to accomplish with this last rehearsal?" And he was like, I don't know. And I said, I told him, I was like, from his last rehearsal, I said, I feel like you give this presentation with a little bit of an apology. Like, you feel like you have cheated the system by getting to talk about music for informatics class. And that, like maybe you feel like it's not legit because of that. And I really wanted him to understand that, for me, like Ms. Wilson was saying, this is the epitome of what we're trying to provide for a student, to be able to see that because Lord knows, as artists, we've all been told you gotta have a backup, career. You want to like punch people when they say backup career, right? All my artist people know, right? So to be able to show or to let a student play in a sandbox where they get to do all of it, I think as a teacher is super valuable for me. It makes me very happy. Obviously, I teach theater and data science, which I have to continually explain to people that it really does go together in my body, in my brain. And so I feel a little kindred spirits with this particular project for sure, because I just love seeing him put those two things together too. And I was trying to assure him that this is not at all cheating. This is winning the game straight up. And you didn't compromise a bit on that, and I love that. And I also am so proud of the journey that you have made in taking responsibility for your work. The fact that wasn't quite sure if you would really own it, but you totally owned the fact that in course one, Brayden would figure out any way he could to like not be the first person to figure this out. So he would be like, somebody else will figure this out and they'll show me how to do it. And now that this is over, I will tell you that the COVID project being by yourself was literally for you. Because I knew that you needed a win by yourself, and when you like, it gives me goosebumps because when it showed up in this thing here, I was like, yes, I am an awesome teacher, because that was evident, and you found that path all by yourself, to take in responsibility for your work in all the future projects, and you took risks, and you built trash even when you knew it was trash, and were like, I know it's trash, but that's not my part of this. I do it. I understand it. I don't have to love it, and I've enjoyed watching that part of your journey, and it just is thrilling to me to see you like pointed out as that. Here is super satisfying. I'm going home tonight feeling like a rock star, so that's good stuff. Thanks. How about your friends? You guys want to chime in?
Oh, I do have a question though. How will like MIDI and other data software that can make music, how will that affect things like the music industry, even like the movie industry and video game industry, other entertainment industries? How do you think that will affect in few years, 10 years, a couple decades even?
I definitely think it'll improve it, extraordinarily because, people who are composers, when you think of a composer and someone like famous, some people are gonna think like Beethoven or some other famous old white guy from the 1600s, and all they did with their life was sit right there and do that, and they just knew what they were doing, right? And they knew like every in and out of like music theory or all this complicated stuff that you have to go through. But using data to make a song, it eliminates a lot of that, and it really allows people who have the creativity to make something beautiful not be limited by something as complicated as a 4-year college course just to be creative. It allows you to actually express yourself without having any skill or technological difficulties or roadblocks for that. So it'll definitely make it a lot better.
Accessibility.
Yeah.
I have one more question to add on to that. Have you tried making music with artificial intelligence?
I have not. Nope. This was one and only ever time I've ever done something like this.
Any other of your peanut gallery here? Jack, you're not going to point out any spacing issues?
I'll get to that later.
Okay. Jack can spot a double space out of place in the wrong, like from a mile away. It's crazy. Shane, did you have your hand up a second ago?
Yeah. First of all, great job on the project.
Thanks.
And also, you gotta promise me that you're gonna do that little dance at the spring gala. That was my favorite part.
Okay.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it.
And-
We have it on film, so.
Great.
And I'm very proud to see your growth over the years that I've known you.
Thanks, Shane.
Glad to see your growth too, Shane.
Thank you.
Well, Shane knows how to play an instrument, but you need to get some people to play that creation. You got to see if someone can transcribe it and play it. That would be pretty cool. It's almost like reverse engineering.
Yeah.
You were able to do something electronically and be amazing at it. It'd be really cool to see if someone could actually fiddle through some of that stuff, because it was some very complex stuff.
I mean, you.
See,
Yeah.
look at that now.
It has
Don't ask me.
ability for stuff like that. I mean, just even without that kind of stuff, you could actually just look at the notes. Like, it'll show you what notes on the keyboard are being played, and you can, if you have some music thing, knowledge, you could be like, okay, it's playing this note, so I'll probably, it'll probably be like this for my instrument.
So band, have you used BandLab?
I've not.
Okay. I found BandLab because they took Audacity away from us in the district, and they gave us BandLab. So it was literally at PD for you to learn about BandLab, because it was for orchestra, chorus, whatever, and I needed editing software as well, and so I went to it to learn BandLab. So it is fun software, and if you want to step back to even easier creating, it has a bazillion clips in there that are beats and instruments, and you can mix like fabulous music from pieces and parts in like that. So teaching composition with it would be super fun. And I think, I'm not a music teacher at all, but I think it would be super gateway into what he's doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's free for Horry County Schools. Yeah. And it goes through Google, and you can assign kid stuff in it too.
Nice. Many band projects.
Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. It's a little bit, later than usual, so we appreciate your time, and we'll just finish by giving him a round of applause, and then we'll take a picture.